I'm Ellen Burke. I'm an associate at SWA Group, which is a landscape architect firm. We have, I think, 6 offices total, but we have 2 in the Bay Area, one right here in San Francisco, and I work in the Sausalito office. And I wanted to talk to you about some of the research I've done that backs up the work we do in the office, and then some of the projects we've been working on lately that aren't as much current urban. They're sort of future places that will become urban, and getting the agriculture in there, which is this idea of hybrid landscapes or integrated landscapes. But I wanted to start talking about kind of the underpinnings behind our thinking on this. And this image, it's called Supermarket Seizure. It's by a local artist here, Chris Brennan, from San Francisco. And it really speaks to me about this alienation we have from our food system as a whole in the culture. There's so much out there, but where did it come from and how did it get here? We don't know. The short answer is came from somewhere really big and really far away. I'm sure most of you have heard the idea that it is estimated 1,500 miles the average food item travels to get to our plate. And the average farm in 2008 was 449 acres. To give you a sense of scale, that's 449 acres on downtown San Francisco. So we won't be seeing many farms under that definition in the city. In terms, part of this problem is energy problem as well. In 2008, agriculture accounted for almost a fifth of our national energy use. But you can see just a fraction of that was the growing and harvesting. The rest was transport, process, packaging, storing. It's estimated that only 6 to 12 cents out of every dollar you spend at a store actually makes it back to the farmer, so we're not supporting them very well. And it takes 87 calories of fuel just to create 1 calorie of food in our, if you're buying just a cucumber at Safeway, let's say. And then from a land use perspective, which is something that all of us in the room think about a lot, the American Farmland Trust estimates that 1 acre per minute of prime farmland is lost to development in this country. This is down from in the boom years, like let's say 2007, they were estimating 2 acres per minute. And that adds up to 3 million acres of farmland, prime farmland in California since 1977 that we have built over. And then there's the really complicated issue of subsidies, government subsidies, and it's over the past 10 years we've spent an average of $14 billion per year on the Farm Bill subsidies. And like I said, it's complicated, but I think the bottom line of that is that that system's not working. If you need to put that much money into it to prop it up, that's not sustainable. We can't do that forever. And so when I started thinking, we think about this, and it becomes, there's a spatial component to this. We've separated in our culture geographically these ideas of the countryside where food is grown, and that's really far away from cities where food is eaten, and the only thing that connects us is this massive transportation network, and we use a lot of energy and time moving food around. And that creates that sense of alienation from our food, the basic thing that nourishes us that was evident in that first photo I showed you. And I think in our office we're interested in promoting the antithesis of this, and this image of Alamany Farm really speaks to that for me. This is, Eli mentioned it earlier, it's a 4-acre farm on public land here in San Francisco near where the 280 and 101 meet. And you can see in the foreground, there, I'm looking for a laser pointer here, in the foreground there's the agricultural land, and then you have the transportation, the highway, and then you have this dense urban fabric, and it's all integrated, it's connected. The farm is situated right there within the social and ecological components of the city, and it begins to speak to a more interesting future we could build than this kind of 2 orbs floating, distant from each other, connected only with big trucks that, if some people's estimates are correct, we won't have those big trucks for very long to bring us our food. So with that in mind, I wanted to talk about some of our projects. I'm going to start with the smallest one, which Sacred Heart School is a prep school in Atherton, California, which is down the peninsula, for those of you not familiar with it. And back in 2007, they wanted to design this new student life and science center. And with it, they decided to do a 1,100 square foot food garden. And it was part of the goal was education. It was going to be part of the curriculum, but it was also the food was going to be harvested and put back into the cafeteria, which you can see the dining area right there, past that person. And it's been a really successful project. They expanded they added another 9,000 square feet, so they have over 10,000 square feet of growing area. And, you know, this was one of the sort of a good project to talk about how when you're fitting this into the built environment, you start thinking about design. So we all know that there's a cycle. Sometimes in agriculture, sometimes it's just bare earth, and most people are not cool with that. So you start thinking about things like evergreen hedges or grasses. How do you mitigate, soften? How do you make something that looks agreeable to to people who aren't used to thinking about landscapes this way? And this is a shot of the expanded garden that's looking back at that building. And then to go back to Barbara's point about zoning and laws that you don't necessarily think are out there, when the school had the intention to, you harvest all this food and we're going to serve it back to the students, and won't this be great? It's healthy, it teaches them a great lesson. And they found out really quickly that in San Mateo that was not allowed, and they had to spend, in San Mateo County, they had to spend a year working with the health department, and now they are the first institution permitted to serve in their own cafeteria food they had grown on their campus. So for anyone who gets any campus work and you're thinking about putting a food garden in that will serve the cafeteria, if it's not San Mateo County, be forewarned that could be a problem. So this is the tool shed and the greenhouse out by the parking lot. And then I really love this image that's kind of sort of really shows it inserted in this more ornamental or more traditional landscape idea. So that's the smallest one, and the rest of the ones I'm going to show you are more to my point about places that are now agriculture but won't be for long, and how do you keep part of that. So Bishop's Bay in Madison, Wisconsin, which is currently agriculture. You can see some images on the bottom there, and wants to be developed into sort of a mixed-use new town. And on the top, some of the sketches and site analysis, but really wanting to keep some of the farming and integrate it into the community and not just wipe it all away. As a profession, we've been kind of neglecting this top, there's the land, you build on it, it was never farms, we don't think about it anymore. So here are some sketches for this idea of these farm clusters that you keep part of the land, and I think it was about a third or a quarter acre of the whole land in active farming, market farms, and you cluster these homes in. The homes have community gardens, and part of the project's stated goals was that you would show by living right there within the agriculture would be shown to people as a good thing, as a benefit, that it's not something that's noisy or stinky or we need to be afraid of, and that people would begin to advocate for saving spaces like that. And this is a project that similarly a development project called Scent of the Orange in Chongqing, China, and it is a huge project. It's let me see here, almost 8,000 acres. But you can see in orange, these were the government's goals for, they wanted this to be a model project. How do we preserve some of the agriculture and preserve a rural way of life and develop it? And the mandate was that only 20% of the site could be developed and 80% had to be kept in farming. And so Chongqing, this set of diagrams, Chongqing is about 3 hours west of Shanghai by airplane. And the site we're working on is on the Yangtze River, very hilly, and this are some images of the site right now. It's all in subsistence farming, so individuals, most of them quite elderly, farming their little plot of land just for what they can eat for the year. And the government's concern is that with China's expansion of population, they need to move some of these people into growing for more than just themselves, and kind of aggregate some of these sites and what they call modernize. So I'll leave it up to you guys whether this is an improvement or not, but that was our mandate. These are some more images of the sort of agriculture that was going on. And then an image of the site plan. So you can see there was 2 discrete towns, the idea of a town down by the river and a town up in the hills, and some scattered clustered housing out in the farmland, but most of it was being kept either in farmland. When we actually started doing the site analysis, there wasn't 80% of the land being farmed right now anyway, because there was these large lakes and rivers. And then you can see our agriculture plan on the bottom right. And we have been asked to talk about what would modern farming look like that wasn't just one person farming, sort of like these people you see under social needs. And so we took the idea of the triple bottom line, and you're taking economics, you're farming efficiently, you're farming for maximum production on some of the land, but you're also thinking about the farmers, their health, not farming organically, so you're not exposing them to chemicals, you're setting up social programs for them, you're getting them hospitals, schools, and then environmentally, some of the things you would do, and one of these was water balance. How can you bring the water use for agriculture in as part of the overall community water use, reusing some of the water, reclaimed water, and then also using reservoirs for the agricultural water. And then at the design level, how do these two meet? So you can see here the town center down by the river with the orchards coming up to it, and part of these sort of small fragmented orchards has to do with the topography, really. And then how can agriculture be a benefit to the development? So are there certain places like villas or hotels that would like to look out over the agriculture, where that would make a higher use for that land? And also thinking about an agro-tourism program. Would people want to come here and tour, kind of like we tour up in Napa Valley? And then finally, a large local project. This is 1,800 acres up in Stockton, California, and I'm happy to say it's in its EIR right now. So many of you might know a few years ago, State Assembly Bill 31 and Senate Bill 375, which set mandates for reducing California's greenhouse gas emissions, including redesigning some communities if they were not going to do that. And our client had been sued by the Sierra Club on his previous plan using these rules because it didn't, it would create more greenhouse gas than reduce it. And so the developer decided to work with the One Planet Living, and I don't know how many of you have worked with that. It's sort of like a LEED, but not really. It's a great program if you haven't heard about it yet. And their premise is that you can see on the top right, the average North American's lifestyle, it would take 5 planets to sustain that, and they want us to, they want people who are working developing these communities to make it so it's only 1 planet you use. And so we compared the old plan with the new plan, and what I want to point out for you is food production is part of the One Planet Living. It's a goal that you somehow address food production in your site. And we also tied that in with the carbon reduction, because the second largest factor in greenhouse gas emissions in California is where our food comes from, which you can remember all those trucks dragging all our food around. So we did a comprehensive plan that integrated within everything else that you normally have, with the schools and the housing and the parks and the hospital and the golf course and all that stuff you normally have. Small market farms, community gardens, on-farm farm stands, the large farmers market, community kitchens, compost yards, wrote a set of guidelines for how this would all work, who would manage it, what could it look like. Thought again about how does it hit the ground, can it be integrated into linear parks, for example, on the left here, orchards, or could we use nut tree orchards in the public right-of-ways? And this diagram, thinking about how you can, for example, in the linear park, we could have community gardens and orchards, so really at every level integrating agriculture into the community. And these are some renderings that an artist did for us, and you can see the idea of this kind of community gardens in the parks in between the housing on the upper right. And the sort of final point of where we tried to figure out what this would come down to, so out of that original 1,800 acres, we were able to save 137 for market farms, which we estimated that by year 5 would be feeding 300 families on the site, but by year 12 would be able to feed 30% of the community with kind of hyper-local food, and that also every neighborhood would have there'd be a community garden within 5-minute walking radius of all housing for an additional homegrown food. And so that's the end of I see Joe gesturing to me, that's the end of my talk, but we have on our website, we have an advocacy site where we write about agriculture, and I also run a blog called growcity.org that focuses on where design and agriculture projects overlap. And that's that.